I think all too often when we look at streets, we kind of look at what's the bare minimum we can do so that somebody could, move on 2 feet from place to place. And it's not just about stopping somebody from getting killed. It's actually about making a place inviting and welcome and allowing people to live a full life when they're out in the street in their own community. And that can take a lot more than just a sidewalk, and more than a curb cut. Wider sidewalks, street trees, separation from traffic, slowing the cars down, allowing more uses on the street, getting good lighting. All of these things combine, and you know it when you see it, you know it when you're there. It's a place you want to be. And I think that should be our objective, is to create places where everyone wants to be and where everyone's welcome.
Walkability is a broad term and means different things to different people. It isn't about the physical ability to walk through an area, but about building safe, accessible, and inviting streetscapes for people of all ages, abilities, and other identities, so that they can walk or roll to where they need to go. And it's about creating environments that make the decision to walk easier and more enjoyable. It's worth noting that good walking isn't a strictly urban phenomenon. Whether you live in a large city, a small town, or a rural area, you can still have safe, inviting, and walkable streetscapes. And regardless of where you're working on building a walkable community, the improvements you make can provide countless benefits to public health, environmental resilience, economic development, and community ties. In addition to the clear physical health benefits of walking, brisk walking 2.5 hours a week can improve memory for older people, with effects as good as some approved drugs. Walkability is also a zero-carbon mode of transportation, and with more people walking and fewer reliant on cars, you've got less air pollution in your neighborhood. Transportation is the second highest household expenditure in the United States, and walking is a far cheaper way to get around than driving. Making neighborhoods more walkable also strengthens local economies by increasing retail and property values. People living in walkable neighborhoods trust neighbors more, participate in community projects, and volunteer more than in non-walkable areas. Importantly, the social connections formed by walkable neighborhoods build crisis resilience, as neighbors who know each other are more likely to check in on each other and provide mutual aid during climate disasters or other times of crisis. So, let's talk about what makes a place walkable. You can think about the characteristics of walkability in terms of these 5 elements: connections, destinations, safety, comfort, and activity. First up, connections. Do the streets allow for all types of mobility options, not just driving? Are paths and crosswalks where they make the most sense? People should have access to an uninterrupted, safe walking network and shouldn't have to go out of their way to follow the walking path. Usually when we walk, it's because we need to go somewhere. So in order to draw people out, it's important to provide lots of different types of destinations that appeal to all types of people across the age spectrum, with affordable options, diverse shops, restaurants, and businesses. Safety can look very different for different people, but there are a few things that we always try to have, like signs and crosswalk markings, smooth, well-lit surfaces, buffers like trees, parking, and lampposts to separate walkers from vehicles, and activity on the street. We'll talk more about activity in a moment. The element of comfort also contains a lot of features, including maintenance of snow and trash so that walking paths are clear and accessible, shade, which is especially important in warm weather when more people are walking, rest areas where people can stop if they get tired, and inviting art and architecture. Last, let's discuss activity. Unlike when you're driving, when you're walking, you can stop if you pass something interesting going on and can discover new and noteworthy features from your neighborhood. Maybe people are playing good music, local businesses have put on a pop-up market, or you see a new art installation. All of these kinds of events and elements contribute to civic pride and draw people out to spend more time in their communities, where important community connections are formed. But even when not all of these elements are present, people are going to walk because they need to. So, we're going to discuss 4 areas of physical infrastructure that impact the pedestrian experience. First, the roadway. Slowing speeds is crucial for saving lives, and changing policy is one way to slow speeds. Creating slow zones, developing complete streets prioritization plans, and reducing speed limits all help. Street design is another effective way to slow speeds. Narrowing travel lanes by painting fog lines, adding protected bike lanes or trees, or widening the sidewalk are some ways of doing this. Even reducing a lane width from 11 to 10 feet can slow speeds by as much as 7 miles per hour. Next, we have crossings, where pedestrians most often interact with the roadway. There are three main types of crossings: signalized, unsignalized, and mid-block crossings. For signalized crossings, important features include pedestrian signal countdowns, longer walk times with shorter wait times, automatic recall, accessible signals with tactile and audible cues, and leading pedestrian intervals, where the walk sign comes on to give pedestrians a head start before turning vehicles get a green light. For unsignalized crossings, highly visible paint patterns, raised crossings, adequate lighting, and tight turning radii are all helpful for increasing the crosswalk's visibility. And for mid-block crossings, where visibility can be even more of a challenge, clear signage and paint, accessible ramps and detectable warning strips, good night lighting, bump outs, and raised crosswalks are all especially important. Daylighting is another incredibly useful feature. This refers to clearing any obstructions from the area directly before a crossing to improve visibility for drivers and pedestrians. By setting parking back by one spot on the corner, drivers can far more easily see pedestrians about to cross, and pedestrians can spot oncoming traffic without having to peek out from behind parked cars. Next up, sidewalks, the meat and potatoes of the pedestrian realm. Comfortable and accessible sidewalks have a smooth and well-lit walking surface with a verge or some sort of buffer between walkers and moving traffic. They are wide and unobstructed and are part of a continuous, uninterrupted walking network. Obstructions to the sidewalk not only inconvenience all users, but render the sidewalk inaccessible for those using mobility devices or pushing strollers. If people have to step into the street to get around these obstructions, walking becomes unsafe. Think about it. Would you ever see these kinds of obstructions in the middle of a driving lane? And when it comes to driveways, curb cuts should be narrow with a radius as close to a 90-degree angle as possible, so that drivers have to slow down to turn. The marked sidewalk should also be uninterrupted by the driveway, both in terms of the material used as well as the slope of the surface. Sidewalks should be flat and continuous to the extent possible. Minimizing the number of curb cuts and therefore the number of places pedestrians interact with moving vehicles is also a good approach for reducing opportunities for collisions. The last type of infrastructure we're going to discuss is streetscape elements, like trees, bus stops, benches, signage, trash receptacles, and lighting. These kinds of elements make the pedestrian realm more comfortable and add vibrancy to main streets and town centers. Signage, benches, trees, and protected bus shelters also provide opportunities for rest and help orient people on how to get where they need to. Most importantly, pedestrian scale elements make people feel like they belong. Walkability is so much more than technically being able to get where you need to go on foot. It's about creating neighborhoods that feel like communities, about making the public realm more livable and inviting, and about connecting people to one another. Investing in safe, accessible, and inviting pedestrian spaces benefits everybody.